Hi, it's Jackie from the Grown-Ass Woman's Guide. As we work on brand new content coming soon, I wanted to share a few of our most popular episodes that are perfect for summer listening. And we'll be back soon with a whole new season. Happy summer.
How do we take what we have here and blow that up a little bit and include more people and get more people excited? And I think we've just found that women want a space to be their most authentic selves and be celebrated for that. Like, I can tell Jen at any point, like, I got a promotion or this what happened to me, and I don't have to feel bad about that. And I think that a lot of women feel bad about sharing that or feel like, how am I going to be seen? I just get to show up and be me and be loved for me, be celebrated for me, faults and all.
Let me ask you this. How involved in your local community are you? Do you attend events? Maybe volunteer for a local nonprofit? Do you have regular ladies' nights playing Bunco or Cards Against Humanity? Don't judge. Jenny Ketchepaw and Jennifer Abbott-Aston met through a mutual friend who thought they'd hit it off, and they certainly did. They formed a friendship that's supportive, empowering, and often vulnerable. Like many of us, they could have kept that friendship to themselves, but Jenny and Jen knew they had something special and wanted to empower other women to also experience a deep connection. In this episode, you'll hear their story, from friendship to community leadership, and how they're bringing women together in their own neighborhood and all around the world. I'm Jackie McDougall, and this is the Grown-Ass Woman's Guide. More and more women are joining book clubs these days as a way to share ideas and connect with other women. But what about a pod club? For women who love to discuss podcasts. Cool, right? Enter the Grown-Ass Woman's Guide Pod Squad, a free monthly virtual event where we can chat about all things the Grown-Ass Woman's Guide. Bring questions, comments, topic ideas, and strong opinions on recent episodes. Some months will include a special guest from the podcast. It's totally free to join. Visit grownasswoman.guide/episode 161 to RSVP. Space is limited. Be a part of the Pod Squad. I would love to see you there. Jenny Ketchepaw serves as VP of Talent Engagement for a financial institution. A certified Gallup's strengths coach, she is one of the most locally engaged, involved people I've ever known. She is a positive force who believes in being proactive, forming lasting relationships, and making an impact where you serve. And Jenny loves travel and spending time with her hubby and 2 young kids. Living right around the corner, Jennifer Abbott-Aston grew up in Toronto, Canada, before moving to the LA area, where she worked as a merchandise executive at USC. When she leaned out of the workforce to raise her 3 boys, Jen stayed active by volunteering in roles of PTA president, vice president, parliamentarian, served as treasurer for Arcadia Child Health Council, Little League T-ball coordinator, canteen coordinator, and she served as the fundraising officer on the Meadows Foundation Board. In 2016, Jen made the move to re-enter the workforce and eventually made the crucial decision to join full-time the company she co-founded, Human Element Company, a staffing and HR agency. As you can tell, both Jenny and Jen have full lives filled with work and family responsibilities. And while they have their own unique stories, they share a passion for uplifting women and supporting each other to be the absolute best versions of ourselves. And that was their mission when they took their new friendship and created an expansive experience for themselves and others.
The first thing we ever did together was a lean-in circle in Santa Clarita.
A lean-in circle is a circle of women connected to the lean-in organization, where women support other women through their personal and professional goals, challenges, and lives.
Jenny had read the book a long time ago. I had just read the book and was listening to a bunch of Sheryl Sandberg's podcasts. And we thought about what would it look like to have a circle in this valley, a lean-in circle. And Sheryl has a whole lean-in website where you can start your own circles. It's really, really easy. And we wanted it to be women from all different walks. You know, we didn't want to have friends necessarily in this group. We didn't want it to be just a catch up with friends. So we started that lean-in group. And that now is starting to grow into more circles, hopefully in the next, couple months. We're starting to do that. That was our first undertaking together, was starting a lean-in circle.
It was life-changing. And I can say that for all 9 women in the circle. And it really did happen. That I read the book so long ago, but it changed something inside of me when I read that book. And then when Jen was like, there's these things called circles, and there's this whole like international component, I had no idea. And it was like, how do we do this? And the fact that these 9 women are so close now, they didn't necessarily, some of them didn't even know each other. And it is the most raw, the most vulnerable. You get to show up and again, warts and all, be exactly who you are and be uplifted, share, celebrate, and also just, it's so hard to encapsulate everything that we do in our circle. But it's like, if you got work stuff, we get to talk about that. If you have celebrations, we get to talk about that. Sometimes we have a program. We just finished the 4 agreements. We've done all different things. And it's a really great space. It's one of my favorite nights. And I know all other 8 women feel the same.
And so what was the motivation? Is that what you expected when you started that Lean In Circle? Were you looking to network? Were you looking to like for business? Like what was the point?
It was definitely personal. And it was definitely like taking our conversations and how do we include more people? But there was a lot of talk recently about women and, how women rise. There's a great book about that, How Women Rise, and how we celebrate each other and how we empower each other. So we thought there would be, some content. I don't think in a million years we ever thought we would get like heart to heart and some of the stuff that has come up and how we've been there for each other. It has wildly exceeded our expectations.
And it really came from a feeding our souls as women, empowering each other, sharing our wins, sharing our losses, learning, lots of lessons. And each woman takes a month and leads either a lesson or if something's come up in the world. We did, Afghanistan, we did the history of women in Afghanistan, when every lesson has been whatever that leader chooses is what they can do. And you can go on the website, the Lean In website, and just grab lessons, or you can read a book like we've done. We talked about women rising and it feeds our soul. But that kind of got into the next venture that Jenny and I started, is that really wasn't, Lean In is very emotional to a lot of us. But from that, we were like, oh, these lessons are really good. And we really wanted to educate. And that really wasn't necessarily the platform of 9 people to educate. So that kind of got into We Will, which is Women Empowering Women in Leadership.
We Will, Women Empowering Women in Leadership, is a workshop series bringing fantastic content to women leaders so they can thrive in their professional careers.
And that more is education, tools for women that they wouldn't necessarily get in professional development at work. And that's kind of where it came out of Lean In. We were like, oh, there's so much that we need to share and learn. Should we do this in, a workshop setting or forum setting? And then COVID hit. So we decided to move it all online, and we have reached, I think we've got, Jenny, you could correct my numbers, 200 or 300 women that are on our mailing list that have attended workshops. And so that was really the tools, that the education. So all of these things have come out of, feeding your soul, or what do we need? And just empowering women. Certainly in this community was the idea, whether their souls needed some empowering or whether their toolboxes for work needed empowering. But it was evident to Jenny and I that it's not really readily available. And especially for women who don't have huge circles of friends.
Yeah. So you started We Will, you were going to do this in person, and then suddenly you're doing it on Zoom. How does it look different from what you sort of planned?
Kind of better, because we envisioned like all coming to this space. And then when we put it online, we got people from all across the nation. And then we got someone from Italy once, and it was so neat. Like I got to talk to somebody at, I think, Vanderbilt University that kind of does what I do for work. And it was so neat. Like I never would have been connected with that person. And that was really cool. And I think we were so worried. And I mean, everybody went on Zoom, but it really lent itself for what we were doing, just for an hour to 90 minutes to connect with women that you don't know. And again, the synergy and the underlying principle is that we got to show up and be our true, authentic selves. And again, the congratulations, the cheerleading for each other, the celebrating, while we're getting really great content for next to nothing. We charge $15 and the organization keeps none of it. It all gets donated to local nonprofits that empower women.
Yeah. The first We Will I ever attended was one that you ran, Jenny, about StrengthsFinder. And I'm actually going to link in the show notes because you did an episode of this podcast about strengths as well. And
my first podcast.
one of my most popular episodes. I think StrengthsFinder is a tool that not as many people know about when I talk to people about it, but it's really, really powerful. So I'll definitely link to that episode.
Oh, that's awesome.
But you, for 90 minutes, taught us how to lean into our strengths. And I remember sharing some of that with my husband, and he went and got his strengths. And it's a really powerful tool. And you're so good at delivering the information with enthusiasm and excitement. And you clearly love the tool. And then I was able to, I was honored to run a workshop for We Will, and then attend one since for International Women's Day. And then I'm lucky enough that you asked me to be a part of it. And so I'm really excited to be part of We Will. So why don't you share, even though I want to hear it from you, what a woman would expect on the next workshop?
Friday, May 13th. And I'm really excited because my boss is leading it. And I feel like throughout our career, again, we find people that lift us up and we find people that maybe hold us back a little bit. And I am so lucky to work for a woman that believes in empowering other women, and that the more she can help us, the more we all help each other. Mm. And she talks about her mom and how her mom was a really strong woman and guided her. But she didn't mention this when we were kind of talking, and we will, but I've seen the next generation of that. Her daughter, Ellie, is getting ready to go to college, and her daughter is one of the most empowered women, and she supports her mom. And so I'm hoping she's going to talk about that generational effect as well, but it's really amazing to hear the stories about her daughter. And so my boss just really believes that your authentic self, if you can be your true self, there's nothing better, and how we empower each other and how we support each other. And, unfortunately, there have been times in my career where women didn't support each other, and that just hurts everybody. And the more that we find women that support each other and are there for each other, man, that's how we change business. That's how we change our future. That's how it's better for my daughter in the future. So I'm really excited. She's the director of HR for the bank that I work at, and I'm just really excited to hear from her.
Yeah. And I will definitely link to in the show notes to get a ticket for that, so others can join us for that. I have to ask, though, I hear a lot from women who, really try to get out there, try to connect with other women, try to work in places that might empower women. And you hear a lot of stories. And so I'm a big believer in attracting what you want and being what you want to attract. But how do the two of you do it? As far as your lean in circle, We Will. The women that are involved are incredible. The attendees, from the attendees to the women who put it together, your work, having this boss, there is a sense of luck sometimes to some of it, but how do you purposely, intentionally attract women who empower other women, and how?
I don't think it's purposely at all. I think it's very organic. And I think that the biggest thing is with leading these groups is that we weren't necessarily the only ones who've picked the people to join the groups. Like Jenny was saying, I think it was Lean In. I probably knew 4 out of 9 of the women, and We Will as well. Jackie, we didn't even know each other. We did meet, one time before We Will happened. I think it's not purposely. I think you just attract it. And Jenny talks about positivity a lot. And I think that when you're a positive person like she is, she can attract positivity. And sometimes the negativity doesn't even have light to shine. And maybe that's the same with us in this empowerment, is that we really have a goal, and that's to connect women and lift them up. And if you don't want to connect with women, you don't want to lift them up, you're probably not going to want to hang out with me. So I think it's all really, really organic. Yeah. It's just, and it could be luck, or it really could be that it just is meant to be, and you attract and you're attracted to those who are similar, but so, so different. And fundamentally, where our core values are, we're usually all on the same page. And that's made that makes it really easy and lovely, and all meetings. And, there's not, you've both sat in some of these meetings now, and there's not really a lot of back and forth. Everybody is always, oh my gosh, that's such a great idea. Yeah, let's do that instead. So I don't think there's the purpose behind it at all. I think it just happens, which is the magical part for me. And also with Lean In and We Will. And there's another networking piece that I'm doing right now as well for women. And it's all happened so easily and beautifully. And all of it's morphed into even bigger than we could have ever imagined.
Wow.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's been magic, right? It's been magic. But I think inadvertently we're purposeful. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think that we have these goals and this heart and these values. And so I do think that we kind of put that out there. And I love what Jen said, because my positivity means a great deal to me. And so there's not a lot of space for the negativity. You don't have a space in my world if you're going to always bring me the negative, and you don't want my positive side. You can bring me the negative and I will help you. But if you just want to bring the negative and just sit in that, that's not going to go over so well.
Right.
And so it's been exciting. And I feel too, for me personally, the older I've gotten, I mean, now, I've been a mom for 11 years. My headspace is different in terms of who I want to hang out with, what my why is. And so I think I put that out there more. And that's probably why Jen and I were so attracted to each other, and why it happened so fast and so cool. And we can't, right now it's really hard to not talk over her, because I'm used to having a glass of wine. I'm laughing if she did show up here in person. It would have been whoa, we wouldn't even looked at you, Jackie. We would have been talking, and
you wouldn't know I was here. So what would you say about those who talk about toxic positivity? And, one of the things I see about you is that you don't sweep things under the rug in a positive fashion. So speak to that a little bit.
That's a great question, because we make assumptions all the time, although we shouldn't, because that's from the 4 Agreements, great book. We make assumptions about other people all the time. And so a lot of times when someone shows up really positive, they make the assumption that it's fake or it's not real. For me, it's very, very genuine. But I also had to recognize in myself that a blind spot is when you come to me with a problem, I'm very quick to see the positive in it. I heard this line once. It was called radical acceptance. And it's when something bad is happening, you radically accept it, it allows you to process and move on rather than sitting in it. Now, sometimes you like to sit in it, but there's not a lot that happens in the sitting in it. And so it kind of gives positivity a bad name, because I'm quick to help. I'm quick to find the positive in a situation. Mine is always genuine. And so there have been tremendous moments in my life that have sucked. Any strength, whether we're talking about positivity or anything else, it's about being real. And so my positivity is real. It doesn't mean I'm happy all the time. But yeah, when people, that toxic positivity, when it's not genuine, when it's not authentic, when it doesn't lift people up, then that can be really problematic. And I don't want to get labeled and, a part of that, because people sometimes make assumptions about positivity or about what people bring to the table. But I bring my whole self, and, that's what you get. And you're going to get someone that sees the glass half full. You're going to get someone that believes that tomorrow is going to be better. And you're going to get someone that when it's really hard, you can count on me. You can count, whether it's hard on myself or whether it's something hard on my family. You can count on me that I'm going to be okay.
Wow. That's amazing.
My number one strength, it's funny how Jenny and our strengths marry, is futuristic. So I can often I love to foresee what's going to happen. So something like We Will, something like Lean In, something like a women's networking group. And as Jenny has taught me, people can think of that as a dreamer. Well, so you've got the dreamer and you've got the positive person together, and imagine it actually happens, and it's amazing, and it was something we thought of, and that's exactly what's happening. So our 2 strengths are married, and it's worked beautifully.
Wow. So what happens, and I'm going to assume, terrible interviewer, I'm going to assume that you have had someone, at least one person in We Will or Lean In or one of the other areas that you work together in your lives that showed up and was not such a great fit. So how does the dreamer and the positive woman deal with a situation like that?
We have had that. And as you both know, and you've worked with me, I'm really all about, yes, I'm visionary, but I'm futuristic, but I really love things to happen naturally. And if I'm feeling that way, I'm betting that the other person's probably feeling that way too, and they need to go through the steps. And it's beautifully happened in those people have removed themselves, like, and very kindly, oh, I'm going into a different part of my life this year in 2021 or 2022. And I think I'm going to step back from this project, and it's been great. And I've learned so much, but right now it's not a fit for me. And I love that because that's the truth. It's not a fit for her right now. And it wasn't probably a fit for the group, but everybody loved on that woman when she left. And that's what we really lift each other up. And it may not be a fit for somebody, but we'll lift it up and honor that. And thank you for so much of the time that you gave us. And we get that it's not a fit right now, and we're always here for you. So nothing's ever, I mean, this sounds like the whole positivity, like Jenny was saying, but it really does work. If you let that person, that woman come to it on their own, and it's organic. It happens naturally. And we've been really lucky. There's really been no issues in any of our groups.
When someone comes to one of the things that you're doing, one of the groups, and they aren't a great fit, you don't try to force them out. You don't try to say, maybe this doesn't work. You just let it happen, because the likelihood that they're going to step back themselves, you don't have to make it happen. Is that what I'm getting? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. And sometimes it's hard to get to know somebody in the initial space. And so you give them space, and maybe the relationship changes in a positive way, or maybe it just doesn't become a good fit. With Lean In, it's interesting because the principles behind it are to go really, really deep. I mean, I think that we are like the model of what the circles are supposed to be. Cheryl says, go deep, but in order to go deep, it means your circle's closed. And so one of the things we're doing right now is, because we have so many women that have reached out to us, like, we love what you're doing. It'll be really hard to say, hey, come join our circle, when we've spent almost 3 years now going deep. Like, how do you do that? And so the idea is create more circles, create more spaces. So we're working on empowering women to create more circles. And so with that, nobody is left. We've had people that have wanted to join. And in the very beginning, we let people come check it out. And someone like self-selected out of it. Like, this is really deep. This is too deep for me. and that's okay. It's all okay. And so now we're at a point where, like, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. Now we'll just figure out how do we empower other people to be a part of it. But our 9 original are the 9 that are still here.
That's amazing. And there's something to be said for vulnerability. And so it sounds like not only getting vulnerable yourselves, but giving the space. What do you think are the benefits of being in a space where you can be vulnerable as a woman?
I think that there's not always the opportunity to, whether it's with a best friend or a husband or partner or with your family, and we aren't a part of each other's daily lives, but we have this trust and confidentiality is a huge part of Lean In. And it is that way, and everybody has each other's trust. And so to be able to have that, I don't know that I've ever had, even with my best friends, sometimes you're so close with them that you can't confide in the stuff that's happening in your life. So I think it's a value that I've never experienced before, and something about women coming together for the same purpose, but not from the same. We're from the same community. I mean, we live in the same city, but the same close-knit community we're not. And it's such a value because it's something that women don't really ever get. And it's very hard to put words to it. And Jenny, maybe you can help, but very hard to put words to being able to confide in somebody that you've known for not that long. And it's the room just turns into this amazing space.
It is such a gift to be seen by I'm going to get a little emotional, to be seen by other women for exactly who you are, and to be appreciated, and to just take all the worry and the stress off your shoulders. And it is such a safe place. But I know that I can make a mistake, but I'm still seen through positivity, and that who I really am. Like, I really can be my most true self. And I think that's what scares people. how do I be my true self? And are people still going to like me, love me, care about me? And we get to be our truest selves. And I don't even have to worry, like if I say something wrong or I make a mistake, I'm still going to be liked, loved, supported, cared for. There's going to be no drama behind my back. Like it's really, I just feel really, really seen and really, really heard.
And isn't that really the goal? And for so long, you nailed it. So many women have not felt that, right? And I think just to go back to the whole age thing, I think over 40, now I'm over 50, you know, you start to realize who you want to be seen and heard by. You no longer care about the masses, and you find these groups and you find other women and you find opportunities, I think, to be yourself. And so I love that you have that.
And we said it before, the magic is these 9 women are not college besties. Most of them did not know each other. I mean, it gives me chills. It truly gives me chills. I'm like,
And I can't wait to see the next step of this, because we are having what are we calling it? A
mixer.
We're having a mixer with anybody who's been interested in being part of our Lean In group, or who has said, how do I start my own? Or I don't know what it is. And we're going to do a mixer. And then the idea, as Jenny was speaking about earlier, is to have more Lean In circles. But what I think would be really cool is then we can, have different events where we all get together, whether, it would be bigger events, obviously, and it wouldn't necessarily be that emotional. Well, it could turn out that way, especially if Jenny and I are leading it. But the whole idea is to be able to give more women what we're experiencing. Right. And you can't do that in a mass group setting. And you can't do that with people that you're very close to and know at the moment. Right. And it would be so cool to have a bunch of circles, especially in this valley. And then we can all support each other one way or another.
Yeah, I love that. And the big event would be really powerful because you have all of these smaller circles that have created these bonds. And so when they bring it to the big event, it's just magical, as you said. What would you say, and by the way, it's on my calendar. What would you say to someone who's like, this is all fine and good, but I'm not necessarily a leader. I don't want to go and start a circle. I don't want to go and start We Will. I just want to join something. What kind of tips would you give them? Obviously, come to our We Will workshops, and I'll link to that. They may not live, in our area. So what would you tell someone who's more of a joiner than a leader in how they can live like this?
So I'm going to take this question. So I think that for me, like I said earlier, Lean In feeds my soul. We Will feeds the educational part of the workshop. And then there's definitely a networking piece, women in business networking piece. And I may be able to share something for our local Chamber of Commerce for that. You first have to look at what's missing. Do you need to feed your soul right now? Are you feeling like you're not getting the professional development tools at work? Or do you just want to network with women? So I think the first thing is you have to look at what you want. And then there is a lot out there that even if you're not from this valley that you can find. There are Lean In circles all over the world. But there's tons of professional development online for women. And I think the first thing is you have to recognize what you need right now in your life and then lean in to whatever that might be. And I guarantee you that there's everywhere you don't have to start something. There's going to be something either online or within your community that you can just join. And I don't mean just, I mean join, and then kind of feel comfortable and navigate through this world, because maybe it might not be what a woman thinks it is. And she gets into it and thinks, what, I can lead a class. This is easy. Sheryl Sandberg's put it all over the internet for me with all these lesson plans. Right. I can contribute too. So I think for me, I would say definitely figure out what part of your women's empowerment within your own persona are you missing.
I love that. That's a great tip.
I have to say, with the Lean In circles, while Jen and I started it and we're technically the leaders, it requires nothing. it was registering on Lean In, and then they give us all the content, and then each woman hosts a different month. And oftentimes it might be at like my house, but Jen will be leading the content. So I'll put the food together and then she will lead the content, or somebody else will. And I'm not saying because we're leaders, like it just switches every month. We don't even have a schedule. It happens again so naturally. And sometimes we have a topic and we even have homework and we read an article and we come, and then something else has happened either in the world or in somebody's life. And we go, okay, let's talk about this. And it's everyone's fine with that, like, which is so cool. So there's not work in the terms of leading it. Jen and I had to do one thing, I think once, as leaders, but really the hardest thing and the most important thing was bringing the women together. So if someone just wants to join, they can either find, a circle around there that they could join, or get a couple people together, kind of throw it out there. And then after that, they can kind of step back and it kind of starts to build. And we're really passionate about this. So honestly, if anybody's interested in starting a circle anywhere, we are happy to share tips, tricks, help guide the first couple meetings.
Awesome.
Because we're deep divers, we did a deep dive and figured out everything there is, but you can just be like, I want to do this tomorrow. And you literally could.
Right. No excuses. Just make it happen. So you talk about networking a couple of times, Jen. What does networking look like? I think about when the word networking first sort of came into my universe. We were probably in college, and it was like, you have your business cards and make sure you wear a suit, and like there were drinks and, and it was an hour or whatever it was. Like, obviously it's evolved through the years, and especially networking with women. What does women's networking look like in 2022?
So it still looks a lot like that.
The wine's just better than when we were 22.
It's really not my favorite thing. My husband and partner in our business, he's amazing at it. It's not my thing, but I put myself out there, and I knew, like I was saying earlier, I knew that piece was missing for me. And so, there's a bunch of different groups around town that I kind of went and met at, and the Chamber of Commerce here in Santa Clarita actually happened to have a women's event, and it was a lunch and learn, and this was pre-COVID, and then they stopped everything. And a girlfriend of mine actually, who is in Lean In, who Jenny introduced me to, she co-chairs it with me. So we got to kind of redefine what networking for women looks like, which has been such a cool tool for me because I don't love it to begin with. So it still is the suits and the drink and the hour after work. But what we've done is we have speakers from the community that are women come in. So we've talked about women in service, or we've done women working in a men's world, and all different leaders from our local community coming in and speaking, so that there's an opportunity for everybody to feel comfortable, because I do not love going into a room and for an hour I just have to chit chat with people. It's just not my thing. Jenny can do it great. Andrew, my husband, can do it great. So by having a program, you still have that chit chat, but then when the program's over, you have something to talk about, which is so great. So, but it is still down to kind of the old school networking, it just with a little more entertainment and all women. It's again, it's a safer place. Right. And so the networking seems safer. I don't know if that makes sense, but for me, it really does. Yeah. I have a great husband, and I have all brothers and all boys, and I actually adore men and have always felt safe with men. But from a networking standpoint, I love just hanging out with women and sharing what everybody's doing at work and where they're at. So that's how I've leaned into the networking piece.
What about you, Jenny?
I've been in the same networking group for 19 years. It's not a women's networking group, but it's a more small networking group that went rogue off of one of those big networking groups years ago. I tend to like rogue, and I love that group. It's a group of really incredible people. And in fact, 2 of our Lean In sisters came from my interactions with them and knowing how empowered they were. But we weren't really social friends. And so we had reached out to them like, I know your story. I know how you empower others. So, everything kind of comes full circle in a way. And I don't get business from the group because I'm in HR. I don't need business.
Right.
People are like, why are you still in this group? Except that we truly, truly care about each other. And so it's been a really great networking group, and I love it.
That's one of the things, Jenny, that I really love too about networking is that I'm only going to do it if it feels natural and it feels, I use the word a lot, as you both know, organic, and you have that in your group. And I'm starting to have that in mine. And networking and business can't happen, in my opinion, if it's forced. I want to work with the people that I can empower and they can empower me. I want to work with people who are like-minded. And sometimes that means business isn't going to come your way, but then for me, it's not the right business. And I think that that's huge for me with networking is I don't go in thinking I need to get business out of this event. I think I'm going to make friendships. And if something comes down the road, then that's just a plus coming out of it.
What do you think are the benefits of networking if it's not to get business? Because that's exactly the way it was, right? You go in there and then you shake hands and next thing you know, I'm selling the person a house. Like I always think of, the accountants and the realtors and all of those people. And then they're just like swapping business. So like for someone like myself, who's a content creator, who's a coach, why would I want to network? Like, is it to get clients? Is it to make friends? Is it to, many of us are so tapped out that someone listening might be like, oh, that sounds exhausting. So what would be the benefits of networking?
I always look at networking, especially right now, because I don't want to say I don't need business. That's not, I don't need to sell anything. I have nothing to sell. I look at it as centers of influence, and my networking group is a center of influence, and everybody knows I'm going to go to Jenny when I need to know who does this, I can't tell you how many times I get people reaching out to me saying, I know you know someone that does this, and I trust your opinion. So I feel like I've built a really amazing center of influence. And same, I can go to my networking group too and say, this is what I really need right now. And this was all built on trust. And I think when you have that trust, when you've been together, when I look at it, as a really powerful center of influence. And so then tapping into all of those resources and the people that will help you, however your business is going to grow, whether it's with a CPA or a realtor or someone in HR that just feeds you with engagement and development.
And I think it's a long game. I think that in my opinion, healthy networking is a long game, like Jenny's talking about, knowing these people for years and having those resources and places to pull from. Networking can look like a short game by the exchange of the cards, but in my opinion, those relationships in business don't last. And you're going to make your money or sell your house to that one person, but the real success in business comes from the long game and those long relationships and the things that happen naturally. And I do think that networking can be a long game. I don't think it has to be the exchange cards and we do business the next week. And if I don't do it, I failed at networking. It's a really long game.
Unless you're a handyman. We have a handyman that came as a guest to our networking group, and everyone's desperate for a handyman. And he left that first meeting with like 10 appointments.
Wow. They're
in hot demand.
So let's just imagine a woman's listening and she doesn't necessarily want to be in the handyman networking group. She wants to be in something that feels aligned with her business or with what kind of tips would you give in finding networking opportunities?
I would say go to as many as you can. And when you know, you know. When you know the people in the room you're clicking and jiving with and you have great conversations and you come home and you feel empowered and fulfilled, it's going to be right. But if you come home and you feel dirty or you feel like it was a lot of salesy, or then, just go once and be done. And sometimes it takes a long time to find the right thing.
Not just in this community. There's a lot all over, and starting to just, again, go to each of them, check it out, see how you feel.
So just Google in your area, networking, see what kind of events there are. And then usually they let outside people in for a different fee or something like that, right? Jen, you said something earlier about knowing what it is, like where the gap is, right? What is it that you're looking for in your business or in your life? Is it the soul piece? Is it the women's empowerment, the personal development? Is it just getting your business out there with other people in your own local community? I mean, there are plenty of also networking opportunities that are online and that are more national or international. And so I think just everything goes back to that first question that you posed. And is it what is it that you need and want in your life right now? I think it's really powerful.
It can change, and that's okay. And we need to remember as women, if you're into something that feeds your soul for 3 years and it no longer feeds your soul and you want to go into that networking for business, change. There's no rules.
Oh, I could not agree with that more.
Also a big fan, if a woman is looking to get involved, and whether it's an official networking group or something else, what calls your heart? And if you're in a community that has great nonprofits, what's the nonprofit that calls your heart? Because you end up meeting wonderful people, and it's a great way to do business and to connect with an organization where you can make an impact. And so that was actually probably my first foray into anything, was getting involved in some of our local nonprofits. And that totally changed the way I was involved in my community, the business professionals I met along the way. So especially if somebody's like, the idea of going to a networking meeting sounds horrible, volunteer for a nonprofit and be connected to an organization and meet other people that are volunteering.
Yeah, that is a fantastic tip. And I think that, making an impact, giving back specifically, obviously it's good for the soul. It's good to, when we get caught up in our own stuff, it's always good to help other people. It's like the kryptonite, right? For all that stuff we can sit in, right? All that self-loathing, but helping other people helps us sort of get out of our own way. But how do you think working on a board of a nonprofit or volunteering at a nonprofit event, does that directly impact your industry and your business, or how does that do that?
It can. So don't go volunteer because you're planning to get business out of it, but good attracts good. Like attracts like. And I think especially in a community specifically like ours, where we're very heavy in nonprofits and we're very heavy in a lot of small businesses, when you are working with somebody on a board and when they're like, I have an opportunity to change banks or to change realtors and all of these things, you're like, oh, I work with Jackie on that nonprofit and I see how much she gives of her heart. Like you just all of a sudden, again, it goes back to trust and building relationships, and you're not there just talking about your business. I'm seeing you as a person, and I'm seeing your commitment to an organization that I'm also committed to. So you already get like points. And it's like, oh, that's what I'm going to think of kind of naturally. And then if you serve on committees, you just get to know people in different senses and you see the way they work. There's nothing better than serving on a committee with somebody and seeing how they work.
Right. And especially if you want to potentially work with them.
Yes.
Or not.
And that goes back to what we were saying earlier about, what cup do you need filled as far as your soul and your education and your networking? Well, you have got to volunteer for what your heart is, for where you're at, so if it's, there's so many, especially in this valley, but anywhere, where is your heart? Is it with just women? Is it with children? Is it with, is it with cancer? Is it, and if your heart is in it, like Jenny's saying, it all attracts each other. But wherever you are fulfilling and empowering yourself, your heart has to be in it. I believe if your heart's not in it, you're not going to attract the right people. You're not going to feel empowered. You want to come home from everything feeling like your cup was full from that meeting.
Yeah.
So I think volunteer, you really have to figure out where you want to put your time.
I love that. And I think that if someone's listening and is like, I don't own a business, I don't need to network for business, I'm not into it, all of these tips also translate into making friends.
Yeah. Yes. Mic drop.
Right? Because that's one of the challenges I see with a lot of women. We started talking about kids and everything that, kids grow up, friendships change, we all evolve. And sometimes we're looking for friendships where we are right now in our lives. And so any of the things that you have mentioned is also a great opportunity to make friends. It's just like, see that full circle there? That's my own lean in circle.
I love it.
So you two, anything else that you feel like my audience needs to know before we finish?
I love, Jackie, what you have been able to do in the space of bringing women together. And I think that the synergies between women being able to come together and be themselves and share and feel supported. And I think that's just it's really special to see that. And thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for everything that you've done.
And I want you to also realize how much you're empowering women. I remember listening to your very first podcast. Well, it was the very first for mine. I think it was one of the first with Heather.
Yeah, that was the very first one.
And this was all before Lean In, and We Will. And naturally, I'm involved in a bunch of things. But as far as like leading and thinking of what it's going to look like in the future. I listened to your podcast and you gave me the strength. And I know that sounds so crazy, but I couldn't even see myself doing this 5 years ago.
Wow.
And just listening and you ask, how do people get started on this? Listen to podcasts, listen to things that are going to make you feel empowered. And then you might actually go out and do it.
Yeah.
But Jackie, you're definitely instrumental in so many women's lives. And you give us some courage that it's there, but we just need it brought out.
I have to talk about full circle. You listen to Jackie's podcast with Heather on it. Heather and Vanessa got really close in our Lean In Circle, and they are launching their own podcast tomorrow.
And Heather was one of my podcast students years ago. I taught her how to podcast. And you know what else is kind of crazy? Jen, you were, I think, the first person to ever reach out to me about that you listened to the podcast, and you asked me to meet for coffee. And you were like, I listened to the podcast, and you gave me this like description, feedback on one of the episodes or whatever it was. And I was like, oh my God, somebody listens. Like, I see the numbers. I see that people are listening, but sometimes one can podcast into the ether, right? You record and you hope that somebody's getting something from it. And you sent me this email and I was like, I'm going to have coffee with someone who listens and I don't even know her. Like, you were the first person that I don't know.
And I was having coffee with you to get the courage to be able to start these groups. Like, Jackie, do you think this is going to work in this community? And so we probably both had our own.
Yeah, we were both fangirling, man. It was awesome.
And talk about full circle. Now, Jackie, you're a part of We Will, which is, it really is full circle to think about me listening to your podcast, then getting, it's amazing how it all can evolve in such a short period of time.
Definitely. And I think when women have the courage to reach out to one another and ask, the fact that Jenny asked me to speak at We Will, I was blown away. Like, why would anyone we all do that, right? Why would anyone want to hear from me? And then to show up and to do it. And it was so much fun. And I was like, I need to be part of this, not knowing you would ask me to be part of it. But you have something really, really special. I'm excited to learn more about your Lean In circles. I'm bummed that I can't join your circle, but I'd be happy to join a new circle. But yeah, you're both amazing. You're both making such a huge impact. One of the things that I am committing myself to is to make that impact more where I live. I tend to be an online person. Most of my clients live all over the country, sometimes outside the country, but there are so many women in our own community who are powerful and amazing and vulnerable and willing to put themselves out there authentically. And I just being around the two of you, it just reminds me how much I want to meet those women as well. So thank you for that. Jen and Jenny's commitment to their community, our community, and beyond is inspiring and a perfect reminder that even putting yourself out there in a small way can lead to big things. Please join us for our next We Will workshop, linked here in the show notes. We have them quarterly. They're $15 and open to all. If you're interested in creating your own Lean In circle, I will link to that also. And you can reach out to me at hello@grownasswoman.guide to get Jen and Jenny's contact info if you want them to guide you through the process. I want to hear how you engage in your own community or how you plan to. Join the conversation in our community. I will also link to that in the show notes as well at grownasswoman.guide/episode 161. And just a reminder, get all of the Grown Ass Woman's Guide episodes on your favorite podcast app or at grownasswoman.guide. One of the best ways to empower women is to share their work. It is our mission at the Grown Ass Woman's Guide to empower more and more women to live their most badass grown-ass lives. If you feel inspired, please share any of the episodes with the women in your life. And if you share on social media, be sure to tag grownasswoman.guide so I can chat with you there. Come back next week. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we kick off 4 episodes created to help you prioritize yourself and your mental wellness. Until then, you are a grown-ass woman. Act accordingly.